Hello everyone and welcome to the second lecture on the Convocation address delivered by Narayan Murthy to the students of Institute of Design, Ahmedabad. Now in the first part of the lecture we have already seen some of the challenges that Narayan Murthy speaks of in the world of market and economy before 1990s. Meanwhile, we have also seen some of the essentials of speech that we discussed earlier as and when they are found in the lesson, in the first part of the speech, and eventually they would also be found in the rest of the speech. Now in this particular lecture I would be speaking of three things: what Narayan Murthy speaks of the past, of the present and of the future. So therefore the speech is very systematically divided, talking of the challenges of the past and the favorable conditions that exist in the present and the opportunities that he sees for the future. So to elaborate a little bit about the problems of the past, he would enumerate them in a number of ways. The first problem that he talks of, he says of the influence. He says it was not very important to have great knowledge, to be passionate about, to have a lot of intelligence, to be smart, but it was equally important to know influential people in bureaucracy, because that also mattered a lot. So therefore influence worked all around, especially when it came to government. Secondly, the bureaucracy of that times was not people friendly, and they were not accountable to anyone, but they were accountable only to themselves, and therefore no questions were posed to them, and as a result they weren't scared. They were in a very comfortable positions, doing all that they did without doing any work. That's the second problem. And the third problem, and very interesting one that he talks of, is the process of giving tenders. So he says in the process of giving tenders, it was not credibility which was tested, but the cost, and that was done at the risk of getting works done in a very bad way. For example, a contractor would quote a very less price to get a tender, and because of which he would do also a very substandard work. Now neither could you blame the contractor nor can you blame the government, because the contractor has to get his contract, because of which he quotes a less price and he gets less money, and because of which he does a substandard work. So that process also was extremely bad. That's what Narayan Murthy feels. The other important point that he points out is Mahalanobis model. Now what exactly is this Mahalanobis model? It was a neo-Marxian idea which focused a lot not on industrial investment, but in the building up of domestic consumption goods. So therefore consumer goods became more important and not capital goods. So therefore the focus was shifted from capital goods to consumer goods. So that were the problems of the past that Narayan Murthy and others had to face when they had this dream of starting something new to benefit the nation and to themselves. Now what does he speak of the present, or what are the opportunities that he sees in the present, or how has the present changed in comparison with the past? Or when I mean past, it would be before 1990s, before liberalization, because Murthy sees the phase after liberalization to be very different, with the markets opening up and the Indian companies doing much better, competing with the global companies all around the world. So he says in the present times the times are better and they are changing, and especially as I said before, the times after liberalization, that is 1990s, made Indian companies compete globally. So it was no more restricted to India alone, but you went around the whole world showing your talent, your caliber, your interest and your passions. And he says liberalization was one particular factor which especially helped the IT companies and very specifically helped Infosys. And in another speech which he again had delivered as a convocation address, he also precisely talks of this journey of Infosys, where he speaks again of this liberalization in 1990s, which is sort of was a path breaking, especially for Infosys. So that was the first point. The second point is globalization. So he says today 25% of the world's GDP comes from global trade. So opening up of markets mutually for others' goods has created a lot of opportunities for everyone. So if you are good and you can provide better services, you can provide better products, you can survive in the market. So that's how globalization works. And Murthy feels that has opened up a lot of opportunities for Indian companies. And the third one that he talks of, he sees as a potentially favorable thing to the youngsters and India, is privatization. He says all around the world there have been about 100 countries which have totally focused on privatization. And he says it's a global phenomena and it's not just restricted to India alone. So you have a lot of governments sort of privatizing almost everything, so that they need not worry about running public institutions. The other factors that he talks of which have played significant role in the present times is internet, because internet has been playing a major role in disseminating information all around the places. It has penetrated into the remotest areas, not just in India alone, but again in the world. He also says the kind of research that is carried out in the health sector has seen phenomenal growth, especially the mapping of genome would actually provide us with a better lifestyles, and also the standard of living would improve in the future. So all these changes that he talks of that are happening in the present times could present to us a very, very different world altogether. So the world before 1990s and the world after 1990s that we see is a very different world that we come across. So to illustrate this point, I would again give you an example of how fast and rapidly things are changing. This is a very simple example. If you think of the introduction of television, you see in the first 30 years you had only one kind of television. When after 30 years, the change that happened in television took about 20 years. But in the next 10 years, the changes that we saw in television were more. And now in the present times, we have television changing almost every day. So new kinds of televisions are coming every day. Another example would be of a cell phone, which is very familiar, I am sure, to all of you. In the olden days, we had only one set or one kind of a basic cell phone, which was a kind of a big asset of a person. That's probably somewhere in the 80s. And in the 90s, you have only few people owning cell phones. But in the year 2000 and after that, you had many people owning cell phones, again which were of basic sets. But you have after 2010 the kind of tremendous change that has happened in the world of mobiles, and today you have every day one new cell phone coming up. So that's the kind of change that we see today, and that's also possible because of I'm sure what Narayan is talking of, liberalization, globalization, and privatization, where a number of private players are sort of competing with each other, and also kind of role that internet has played in. Now, what future holds for us, or the graduating students to whom he is talking, what can they expect when they go out from their institutes, or what does the world expect of them? So this is something that he is talking of. Meanwhile, as I had told you all in the essentials of speech, I had also told you all the last point, if you remember, it was to do with to give a message, and in this part of his speech Narayan Murthy also gives his message to the graduating students of the Institute of Design at Ahmedabad. So what does the future holds for these graduating students? So he says, when the students graduate and move out of the institutes, they no more compete with their own fellow beings, or not their own neighbors, but they are to compete with the best in the world, and therefore they will have to be really good. They will have to be passionate about what they do, and they will have to be hardworking, because before 1990s they had to Indian company had to compete only with other Indian companies, but today an Indian company will have to compete with a global company. So if you intend to produce a cell phone, your cell phone would be a big hit in the market only if it can match other cell phones that are produced by international players. So that's the challenge that the current generation of graduates have before them. The second one, change the notions of India in global markets. The whole idea of Indian products being considered as a substandard is prevailing in the world market, and that can be changed over a period of time. Now what has happened over the years, this particular notion has been circulated among countries, and therefore it has not happened overnight, and therefore also changing this idea of India not being able to produce world class goods is not going to change overnight. It will take time. Persistently we'll have to be on the top, and only that can change the whole idea of India also being one of the best in producing the best products. The third one, and the most important one, is pursue excellence. Now this is also the motto of our college, Majis, to do things excellently. There is nothing less that is acceptable. So strive for excellence, and the rest will be taken care of by itself. So that's now Narayan Murthy goes on to elaborate how you can sort of make this habit of doing things excellently consistently. Now he goes on to speak of three things. First, he says relentless training. So it's very important to train your mind and to train it continuously, so that excellence becomes another nature of your being, or excellence becomes habit. Now right now Murthy feels that Indians are slightly lazy, take things for granted, and they believe in being satisfied with just average things, and that particular thing has to change, and for that you'll have to relentlessly train our minds to pursue excellence. Second point is that to get frank feedback. This is probably something that I'm sure Narayan Murthy himself has experienced, because we got to be open to accept the constructive feedback that people give us, and not be defensive and try to sort of go defensive and say or not accept things that may not be that favorable to us. So it's important that we objectively look at things and then evaluate them, value them, and see what's good and what's bad, what is right, what is wrong, and it's very important. So feedback, to take a constructive feedback positively, is the second point that he talks of. And the third point that he talks of is the self-improvement. So it's important that we keep improving ourselves every day. So I as a person should be better tomorrow, especially when it comes to my skills, my thinking capacity, my efficiency. All these things should be slightly better tomorrow, and they should be a little more better on day after tomorrow. So these are a few things that he speaks of to pursue excellence. And the last point that he talks of, in the category of future, is excellence prospers in environment where your hard work is recognized and rewarded. And therefore he says it's important that we create that environment where every good action done is recognized first and rewarded. Rewards not always in terms of monetary benefits, but they can also be a word of appreciation, a pat on the back could do a lot of good to people working under you. So therefore it's very important to create an environment where people feel secure, people feel confident, people feel comfortable, people feel they are welcome. And so Murthy calls on people, especially in the hierarchy, to create this kind of an environment. So these are the few things that Narayan Murthy talks of, and he concludes his speech by quoting two people. First one, he says, he quotes Harold Taylor, and he says, "The roots of true achievement lie in the will to become the best that you can become." So it's not important that you reach the moon like Neil Armstrong, but if you are able to do something that you are capable of doing, that is something that is expected of you. Everybody cannot become Narayan Murthy, nor can everybody become Steve Jobs, but you should reach your fullest potential. That's what he says by quoting that particular line. And the second quote that he uses is of Henry Ford. Now what does he say? What is a quote? You cannot build a reputation on what you are going to do. So you may go on having a lot of fantasies about your future, saying that I want to do this, I want to do that. And just like in our childhood, everybody has a dream of becoming a doctor. Everybody has a dream of becoming a police officer. Everybody has a dream of becoming a pilot. Everybody has a dream of becoming something great, scientist. All these are fantasy dreams. Not that they cannot come true. They may come true, but not many of them follow our dreams of our childhood. So therefore he says mere talking would not do. You have dreams, you have to pursue excellence and act upon them. So when you have dreams and when you pursue excellence and you act upon them, only then your dreams can be true and all your dreams would be realized. So therefore using the quote of Henry Ford, he also emphasizes on the importance of action and not mere speaking, because we have a lot of preaching done around but no practice. So therefore it's not preaching which is important, but practicing is far more important. So these are the basic things that Murthy talks of in his convocation address. So he focuses on the past problems, the present which is quite favorable, and the future which holds a lot of opportunities to all the graduating students. So hope you all liked the lesson, and thank you so much for patiently listening to this lecture.